Bills make me wanna
shout,
kick your heels and the Bills make me wanna
shout,
kick your heels and
shout,
throw your hands up and
shout,
throw your head back and
shout.
Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Say you will.
Shout it right now, baby.
Say you will.
Come on, come on.
Say you will.
Come on and shout.
Say you will.
Yeah.
Shout.
Buffalo's happening now.
Shout.
We're on the move now.
Shout.
The Bills are happening now.
Shout.
They're making it happen now.
Shout.
We got the spirit.
Shout.
A lot of spirit, yeah.
Shout.
We got the spirit.
Shout.
Just watch it happen now. Hey, 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 hey. Let's go, Buffalo.
Let's go, Buffalo.
Let's go, Buffalo.
Let's go, Buffalo.
The Bills make me wanna.
Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the M-E-T-S Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the M-E-T-S Mets of New York town, of New York.
You're listening to the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock, 164 Madison Street, right here in Oneida, New York. If you'd like more information about its church and its ministries, give us a call at 315-280-4044. That's 315-280-4044. Or check us out on the internet at www.yourcotr.com. That's www.yourcotr.com. Thanks again for listening to 4th and 10. Do you like what you're hearing? Great news. You can hear more. Go to livestream.com/COR Radio for this and more of COR Radio's broadcasts. Into sports? Check out the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. How about the Christian Rock and Comedy Show with Double Edge? Or how about some old school Christian rock? Check out Retro Rock Live. Or maybe a faith talk with some interactive messages from Sunday morning messages at the Rock. Oh wait, you guessed it. The church and its services right here at www.livestream.com/COR Radio. That's www.livestream.com/COR Radio. Thanks again for listening, because there's more coming your way from COR Radio, Church on the Rock Radio.
You're listening to COR Radio, Oneida's North Side, Part 15 Community Christian Radio Station. COR Radio is a ministry of Church on the Rock located at 164 Madison Street, right here in Oneida. For more information about the church, its radio station, or ministry, check us out on the web at www.yourcotr.com. That's www.yourcotr.com, or give us a call at 315-280-4044. 315-280-4044. Thanks again for listening to COR Radio.
Y'all ready for this?
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show, streaming live every Wednesday from 10:30 a.m. to noon. Today on 4th and 10, we talk about the first game at Syracuse football versus Ohio U. A little struggle on the defense, not so much on the offense. It's a great 4 touchdown passes by Kyle McCord as the Orange knock off Ohio U. We talk about what Syracuse needs to do defensively in order to have a shot at Georgia Tech this Saturday. Plus, we preview the 3 New York football teams' NFL seasons as the NFL season starts up this upcoming Sunday and Monday, as we preview the Bills, Jets, and Giants, and have a question to ask for each team. Also, we look at 15 college football players to watch for that are Christians and Christ is the center of their life. All this and more coming up on a jam-packed hour and a half of 4th and 10. All right, glad to be with you on another Wednesday here. The first Wednesday in September, and it got to be a great time of the year. The summer's coming on, the weather's still fairly nice out, a little cool, but you got football this upcoming Sunday. Oh, man, we are excited as the NFL gets started. That's right, Sunday the Bills face the Cardinals, the Jets, and the 49ers on Monday Night Football. And to be honest, I'm not even sure who the Giants play. See where my priorities are, but excited. Plus fantasy football. Man, who can't be excited? The NFL getting started this weekend. Of course, we're right in the thick of things with college football as well. And, of course, I'm your host, Nigel Delbert. Glad to be with you. Another exciting 4th and 10 as we're going to run down the show here in a second. Once again, my dad's not here. He had a doctor's appointment, still just being under the weather. If you think about it, just be praying for him that he gets back to normal here sooner than later. That would be great. And so we got some great things going on for you today on the show. Our opening show topic, which we're going to be doing in about 5 minutes, what are some keys to SU improving on defense going into this big Georgia Tech game? So going into the game, there were two huge things to me that stood out. First and foremost was Syracuse run defense looked very skeptical, very just not getting the job done, getting beat up front by a smaller mid-major school in Ohio University, which was definitely a concern to me going in and watching this game as they gave up 23 points to Ohio U. But then Syracuse, on the other end, had 4 touchdown passes, career high in yards and passes by Kyle McCord. Looks absolutely amazing as a great. We need to keep him healthy. The offensive line held up, so that was great news. But the other bad news was that Marlowe Wax got hurt early in this game, and he is supposed to be out, could be out as long as six weeks, hopefully at the worst 6 weeks. But that's definitely a big blow to this Orange football team. So we're going to get into that soon. What are some keys to SU improving on defense? We're going to have some quotes from Dina Bavers. We're going to we'll show you a short highlight video of some of the great moments in the first game in the of course Fran Brown era of Syracuse football. And we're going to have about a 2-minute video clip from some highlights both on offense and defense. And then we're going to get into this topic. What are some keys to SU improving on defense going in this Georgia Tech team? Is that definitely seems to be the weakness. They definitely, didn't do everything that they should do. And then, of course, towards the last half hour, 40 minutes of the show will be our NFL football preview, as we are going to try to get as much previewing of the Bills, Jets, and Giants. Could the Jets really contend with the Bills? And I think this is going to be a very hard year for the Bills to win the AFC East. They've won the AFC East now 3 or 4 years in a row, but it's going to be challenged with Aaron Rodgers. And so we got a big question mark for each team going into the season that we're going to talk a little bit about. But we're going to look in the depth of who the Bills, Jets, and Giants lost in the offseason, who they gained, and talk about maybe some expectations of what we could look for each team. And then I have the biggest question for all 3 teams that I'm going to be asking. For the Bills, I'm going to ask, what does Josh Allen have enough weapons around him to be effective? Does Josh Allen have enough weapons around him as they got rid of Stephon Diggs, traded Stephon Diggs. We've talked about this before in some early stuff on the Bills. Gabe Davis, they let him go in free agency. Of course, we have Cook back, James Cook. They got Shakir. They got the 2, of course, tight ends, and Dawson Knox and Kincaid. Is this enough weapons? That's what the question I'll be asking going into the Bills preview. The Jets preview, will Aaron Rodgers be, at 40 years old, stay healthy to lead the Jets the entire season? Or is he injury prone again? Is he going to only play a couple games and get some kind of injury? Will he be out there? I know Tyrod Taylor, I believe the Jets got on the offseason, is the backup, and I think he's a little bit better than Wilson. In my opinion, he's been kind of a career backup besides his little time of being the starting quarterback for the Bills. But we'll see. Will Aaron Rodgers stay healthy to lead the Jets the entire season? The Giants have many questions, but we'll start with the Giants question. The biggest question I had for the New York Giants is the offensive line finally fixed enough to protect Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones has been getting torched by defenses the last few years. And, it's going to be hard for him to stay healthy if the offensive line isn't fixed. We'll go over some changes the Giants did, and they got a lot of issues. They also have a secondary that is very young. How will they hold up? A lot of questions going into the Giants season this year. So we'll get into all that. Then we're going to do something a little bit different for our Christian athlete profile. We're not going to profile one athlete today. There was a cool article on sportspectrum.com, and this is courtesy of them, called 15 Christ-Following College Football Players to Watch in 2024. So, again, as we start getting in further in, we're into week 2 of the college football season. We're going to look at, and we're going to read a short thing on 15. It won't be long, just this will be about a 10, maybe 10, 12 minute segment as we do 15 Christ following college football players to watch in 2024. It's 15 guys that are good, are Christian guys that are going to be good football players as well this year. So we got that. Then we have our scripture of the week related to sports, and we're going to talk about having a fresh start no matter where you're at, whether you're the Bills, Jets, or Giants, or anybody else. Syracuse football, the beginning of a season is always a fresh start, and we're going to talk about keys, to starting over, starting fresh, what that means. So we'll get into that. And that's basically our show. We'll also talk baseball. Look at the wild card as the Mets close in on the Braves. The Mets have now won, I think, 7 straight games. There are 11 games over 500. Exciting stuff there. How the Yankees are doing. Looking at that wild card pitcher, the Syracuse Mets still finishing up. Still have about a week and a half left in their season. We'll look at the Syracuse Mets. And we'll talk about a couple headlines, look at some college football scores, including Dino Baver's new team and how well his offense did. We'll get to all that. But here to start things off, let's get into our opening show topic with what are some keys to SU improving on defense and going into the Georgia Tech game. Talk and recap some Syracuse football to get things started here on 4th and 10. So we'll be right back with our opening show topic. All right, Syracuse going into a huge game against Georgia Tech at the JMA Wireless Dome. Hopefully, it'll be close to a sellout, as I believe they've actually, to this point, have sold close to 40,000 tickets. And so we'll see there. We'll see what goes on with that whole situation. And again, I think there's going to be a lot of people there. I think there's going to be definitely more people there than the Ohio U game for sure. So we'll see how that goes. But again, starting things out here, let's start with showing you a video, kind of a highlight video, kind of recapping the whole Syracuse-Ohio game. Again, a game that they were able to win, 39-23, I think was the final score. I was in the JMA Wireless Dome. First time in the new seats. I gotta say as well, the seats are very comfortable. Very comfortable. Me and Chris were there. Chris, of course, another guy worked at the church, been on this show and other radio shows before. He agrees they were very comfortable seats. You had plenty of room. The hardest thing was I didn't know what to do with my drink. I'm like, put it on the floor, and then I put it on my jacket. I'm like, this because it was Lionel rainy, so I did bring a jacket, and that was probably the hardest thing. Wish there was drink holders up on the top level. I don't believe there's drink holders at the bottom level either. I don't know if anyone confirmed that that's been down in the bottom level, but I wasn't sure there either. But it was a great experience, great atmosphere. Great to see Dino Bavers Fran Brown do some good things as a brand new coach. the 2-minute drive, they did a drive in less than a minute. They went down to the field and scored a touchdown. Great clock management, unlike Adino Babers. That is what I was trying to say, was an amazing clock management to score at the end of the half there for Syracuse. So some awesome things going on there. So let's start out by looking at a highlight video. Again, this is about 2 minutes long from the Syracuse, Ohio game this past Saturday in the JMA Wireless Dome as we get ready for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, of course, who upset Florida State in the opening weekend of college football, or not even the open weekend, week 0 they called it, as they won in Ireland. Come to find out, though, Florida State loses to Boston College on Monday night at home. So maybe Florida State's not all they cracked up to be, and maybe Syracuse has a better chance against Georgia Tech. Is Florida State just is Georgia Tech really, really good, or is Florida State that bad? We don't know for sure. So without further ado, here's our highlight video for Syracuse football versus Ohio U this past Saturday, right here on 4th and 10.
And the 2024 season for Syracuse gets going as they take on the Ohio Bobcats out of the MAC. Navarro to throw, he just got it off. Now he's being flushed, and he'll be brought down. Now Allen out of the backfield, goes in motion. Ohio brings pressure. He's Gaston wide open inside the 5, touchdown. Owen in motion. Navarro gives to Hunt, and he brought down in the backfield. Tank Wilson. Instead, Navarro outside, brought down at the 7. It's maybe one shot to the end zone here from McCord. And he takes it. Has a receiver open in the corner. Pena for the score. LaQuint Allen. Big run up the middle, still on his feet. Into Ohio territory.
Green.
McCord goes to LaQuint Allen, one-handed catch for the touchdown. 1. McCord to throw deep. Oh, what a catch by Jackson Meeks. McCord the fake to Willis. Going to the corner for Pena. Pena. He scores. Time all Big Sky at Northern Arizona. Looks playing like he wants to be all MAC today. That'll tip and picked off. Intercepted by James Hurd. The successful first game as the Orange will start 2024 at 1-0.
All right, make that 38-22. I think I said 39-23. Same thing. But yeah, so that is how it started. A lot of highlights. Again, the offense looked great, but the defense, yeah, is what was concerning for me with that. So Syracuse notched a win in their opener, and now the Orange will prepare for a daunting task in Week 2 as Georgia Tech comes into the JMA Wireless Dome. And Georgia Tech, who is now was just outside of the top 25 in like the USA Coaches poll, but came in at number 23 in the AP poll. Obviously, we know in Week 0, as they called it, Georgia Tech pulled off an upset, defeating number 10 Florida State in Dublin on a last-second field goal. The Seminoles then won the ACC last year, but of course then went home and lost by more than that to Boston College. So, but Georgia Tech, at least so far, they won against Georgia State as well, but they didn't look as good. They struggled a little bit more penalties. They looked a little bit more human on this Saturday. So Georgia Tech, even though they're a good team, I definitely think Syracuse has a great shot. They're at home. I heard the first that the lines came out and it had Georgia Tech favored by like 3 points. I'm not sure how that will go, but Georgia Tech, at least so far, has demonstrated as an excellent ground game, which could definitely give Syracuse issues. Given the Orange struggled this past Saturday afternoon in containing the run against Ohio, Fran Brown acknowledged that Syracuse will have to do much more in the department if it's going to knock off the Yellow Jackets. So the key here, again, is what does Syracuse do on the defensive end to slow down Georgia Tech? What are some keys to improving? They got to tackle better, guys. You know, some of it's just elementary stuff, just basic elementary stuff. To this date of the 2024 season, Georgia Tech has wins over Florida State and Georgia State, with a latter victory transporting at home on Saturday. According to ACC's website, through the pair of contacts, the Yellow Jackets are averaging an impressive 207.5 yards per game on the ground. And Georgia Tech's leading rusher is redshirt junior Jamal Haynes. And Haynes is a fast, quick, athletic guy. He's going to be a hard guy to contain. They got to be able to tackle this guy. They need to bum rush him at times. Make Georgia Tech have to throw the ball, you know. Take the ground game away. Syracuse, I'm sure they've been practicing and working on this all week, having to, got to see some improvements on that run defense. So far for Haynes, his total carries of 28 times for 115 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, while Hayes is averaging a strong 5.7 yards per attempt. But it's not just him that the Orange defense will have to contain. Georgia Red Set Jr. Haynes King is a talented dual-threat quarterback. Again, so far he's completed 77.8% of his pass attempts for 420 yards with 2 touchdowns through the air and 1 interception. On the ground, King has rushed the ball for 19 times for 91 yards and 1 score. The native of Longview, Texas, was a member of the 2020 recruiting class, was rated by ESPN as 4 stars, nationally 46, and number 3 dual-threat quarterback around the country in that cycle. This past Saturday, the Orange beat non-conference foe Ohio 38-22. After the slow start, the team's offense played well. But can the Orange just outscore Georgia Tech? I don't know if it's that simple or that whatever, but undeniably, Brown says defense coordinator Elijah Robinson and the other Syracuse will make adjustments before the Georgia Tech game. It's not just that the Orange gave up so many yards in the rushing area to Ohio. What was more alarming is that the Bobcats' offensive line, which is a lot of new faces, often dominated the line of scrimmage versus Syracuse defensive linemen. That is a huge concern, considering Georgia Tech's an ACC team, a Power 4, Power 5 team, not a MAC team, and a bigger offensive line. If Syracuse's defensive line struggled so much against that smaller Ohio U line, how are they going to deal with the Georgia Tech line? So those are definitely your concerns going into this game. Cuse's defenders weren't efficiently setting the edge, and it's something that they've got to do. They've got to set the edge. When you mean set the edge, is you can't let guys get outside of you. You got to keep them. Draw them to the inside of you. Draw those guys to the inside. Fran Brown in his post-game press conference said his defensive players have to do a better job of hitting, striking blocks, and knocking the opponent back. It's kind of a man-to-man game. It's kind of like, be a man. And they just did not do the fundamental things. He said, we weren't playing our game, he said. Instead of the game. And so it's about hitting hard, striking blocks. So there you go. So this is some of the keys as we talk about this question. Keys to SU improving on the defense. They got to hit better. They got to do a better job of hitting, striking the blocks, knocking the opponent back. When asked a reporter about the ACC's duel with Georgia Tech this Saturday, Brown said, we better stop the run and the quarterback from being able to run. And those are the keys. If they're going to knock off a top 25 team this Saturday in Georgia Tech in the JMA Wireless Dome, they've got to find a way to stop the run. And that starts by fundamental football, making tackles, striking blocks, effectively setting the edge. A lot of these basic things are the keys to SU's defense being able to stop Georgia Tech. You cannot have missed tackles enabling Ohio to turn short runs into longer runs. You got to tackle. So I mean, I just believe that Fran Brown is going to be and Elijah Robinson going to be on them all week. I'm sure he's already has been. Here we are on a Wednesday, all week on this idea of getting these guys ready to play some football, get them ready to tackle. Let's play some Syracuse football. Let's get it out there. So Syracuse will try to contain Georgia Tech's rush without, obviously, one of its leaders with Marlo Wax suffering a lower body injury. But again, this is next man up. I know Marlo is huge. He's probably your best defender, and he's going to be out for a while. But Syracuse has to adjust. They've been there before. But one thing that's good about this Syracuse football team, as opposed to teams under Dino Babers, is this team has more depth. They've got guys that can step in and really make a difference here. And I really believe that they can do this. So other linebackers will need to step up. Even Brown acknowledged that Wax is the leading Syracuse defense. It's a difficult ball game for the Orange, but it is what it is. Just like anything in sports, injuries comes along with it, and you got to be able to deal with the injuries as they come. So we got there. So we got that, and as far as that's concerned. All right, so let's see what else. So again, Syracuse defensive corner Elijah Robinson spinning that 4-2-5 defense. He also brought, he had a preseason game, Feta Diggs on the edge, and New Mexico State transfer Deion Tank Wilson Jr. on the interior. But according to Pro Football Focus, SU's roughing defense graded at 52 points high, while attacking currently ranks fourth worst in the country at 34-8. But that's one game. But that's concerning, and those are what you got to do. As Fran said, we weren't hitting, and that's what we do. That's what we're buying. That's why we're buying in. That's supposed to be our DNA. We weren't hitting them. We were diving instead of using our pads. So no more diving. So those are those fundamentals. I think that they're going to work on in practice. I think you're going to see a better Syracuse football defense this Saturday. I really do. They got to stop that diving stuff and start actually tackling. Again, Ohio's rushing total would have been the second highest against SU in 2023, falling behind only a 318 showing for Virginia Tech on October 26th of last year. The Bobcats offense didn't enter the season opener as a great rushing team. In 2003, Ohio ranked 7th out of 12 teams in the MAC at rushing per yards. So again, those are concerns. They're definitely concerns that Syracuse has to clean up. Brown said that throughout the game he was snapping on the D line. He felt they were a lot better than they were playing and weren't doing what they practiced, limiting the rest of the team. The defensive line is the unit that has remade to wreak havoc, putting 4 down linemen as opposed to 3 in the previous formation. With Diggs coming in from the SEC, he paired with returner Dennis Wickes Jr. on the edge. Inside, SU lost Braylon Ingram in the fall camp to Achilles and used a rotation. Thea Hastings, Rashard Perry, Kevin Joppy Jr., and freshman Marshred Watson. The stable interior is Wilson Jr. comes to the Orange after 3 years at Arizona and 1 with New Mexico State. And they just talk about some players that would just change the line of scrimmage. Wilson Jr. said, "Run the ball, be aggressive, single play. That's a mindset. Every single play for the season has to be a mindset since I got here. Again, it's stopping the run." Safety Deuce Chestnut attempted to come up and make a big hit on Tice, but the running game evaluating him. Justin Barron was blocked by wide receiver Colon, the freshman corner, and missed Tice's legs. Ohio's new running back broke free for 44 yards. And, this was just a pattern of things that happened throughout this game. So, yeah, we said, Diggs says we got to get off the blocks. We got to just got to be more violent up front and up there. We can't worry about defending the gap. Make sure the guy in front of us doesn't want to block us. And I feel like they didn't do that today. So I know that sounds simple, but my solution is fundamental football. Fran Brown said it, then I'm going to just say, tackling and hitting the gaps, not allowing them to get to the outside, getting off of their blocks, getting off of the blocks of the guys trying to block him, and not getting beat up front. Be a man, get up there and fight up front. Be physical with this Georgia Tech team or Ohio U or whatever we're talking about here. I think that's crucial in what Syracuse is trying to do as far as that is concerned. Just kind of throw that out there. I see Kyle's on here. Kyle's one of my friends. He's actually in Oklahoma. He used to be here. He says, I think people need to seriously consider Georgia Tech on the ACC championship contender. Well, yeah, Georgia Tech could be contender, but they got a long way to go. Remember, they beat Florida State by a field goal. But here's my thing with that. My thing with that, Kyle, is Georgia Tech didn't look as good. If you watch any of the Georgia State game, they looked more vulnerable in the Georgia State game. And then to top that off, Florida State goes home and they lose by double figures to Boston College. This is Boston College at home. Boston College, okay, Bill O'Brien's good. He's coming from the NFL, came over from Penn State. That's great. But that's got to be concerning. That means that maybe Georgia Tech's not as good as everyone thinks they are. I think Syracuse can beat them, but the way they're going to beat, they've got to show a better defensive effort. That offense for Syracuse looked amazing. If Kyle McCord, I think they're going to be able to move the ball on Georgia Tech. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball as good as they did against Ohio. But I think Syracuse can win this game. I think it's a close game. I think Syracuse wins by maybe 3 or 4 points. I'm going to actually give the nod to Syracuse. I mean, being a homer, whatever the case may be here, I'm going with Syracuse getting the win here for sure. So that is our opening show topic. Again, Georgia Tech is going to be a huge game. It's going to be a huge game. We got to get that dome rocking. The dome's got to be around to get those new seats. Let's sell out. Let's get 42,000 people, whatever the new attendance you can get in there. Let's make it hard for King to hear the at the line of scrimmage. Make it really hard on the Georgia Tech offense. That's another thing. What's another key that can help Syracuse's defense? The crowd. But they got to get the crowd in the game. Get them to third down. The crowd's not going to get loud in a third down and whatever if you don't get to third down. So Syracuse got to get to the third down. It's got to be huge. They've got to be able to be physical up front on defense, make the tackles that need to be made. Don't dive. Don't let them get outside. Cover the gaps. Fundamental football. They got to go back to fundamental football and things. As Coach Brown was furious throughout the game, saying that they were not doing what they've been doing in practice, that they are not doing what there was their DNA. And maybe, to all that, we're worried that this was their DNA. Maybe they're not as good at defense. But I don't believe the true Syracuse defense. I believe you didn't see the true Syracuse defense yet. And I'm hoping we see a better, more organized, more fundamental Syracuse football defense come Saturday. And if that is the case, if we see a better fundamental Syracuse defense on Saturday and the offensive weapons that Syracuse has, are you kidding me? With Allen as your running back and of course you got Gatson and you got Pena and you got Meeks and Jackson and Mays on the outside, and Hayes on the outside. This team has as much talent on offense as I can remember in a long time. So this can be an exciting team. Let's hope Syracuse can get the victory. Again, that's at noon at the JMA Wireless Dome coming up this upcoming Saturday. And Kyle says, I agree. Yes, you can beat them, but they got to break through that O-line. I agree. Got to break through the O-line. They've got to make tackles. They can't allow the Hayes and the bunch to run all over them. And that'll be a key to victory come Saturday. So let's go Orange. hopefully things will get good there. So that is our opening show topic right here on the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to go through some of the headlines and things that sit out in sports, including what's going on in Major League Baseball. So thanks again for listening to the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. We'll be right back right after this.
You're listening to the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock, 164 Madison Street, right here in Oneida, New York. If you'd like more information about its church and its ministries, give us a call at 315-280-4044. That's 315-280-4044. Or check us out on the internet at www.yourcotr.com. That's www.your.cotr.com. Thanks again for listening to 4th and 10.
All right, back live with you here on 4th and 10, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock here in Oneida, New York, streaming live on Facebook under my personal Facebook page, Church on the Rock, COR Radio Facebook page, and on the 4th and 10 group site, as well as on livestream.com/COR Radio. You can check us out there as well. All right, so let's get into some headlines and some sports things going on around that have happened here. As far as the Mets and the Yankees, start out with the New York Yankees. New York Yankees currently just got their 80th win. Or no, was that was the other night? Yeah, got their 80th win over the Texas Rangers on Monday night, but lost yesterday at Texas 7-4, dropping their record to 80-59. And actually, the Baltimore Orioles won last night. So the Orioles, going into last night, the Yankees were a half a game ahead of the Orioles, but the Orioles, by winning and the Yankees losing, retook the lead in the American League East standings, as the Orioles are in first place, winning 3 straight games. They are 81-59. The Yankees fall to 80-59. And, of course, Boston's in third. They lost to the Mets last night. We'll get into that in a minute. And they fell to 70-69, full 10 games, 10 and a half games out of the first place there. So the Yankees try to get things on track. The Yankees have actually lost 3 out of 4 now. So they got definitely got to get things on track. And if you go even further than that, they lost a couple games to the Nationals last weekend. Let's see, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the last 7. So they're 2-5 in their last 7. So there's definitely some concern in Yankee land. And again, they're still 21 games over 500. I don't think they have to worry. I think they'll make the playoffs. But, the division race, they've got to play better if they want to outdo the Orioles, or the Orioles are going to win this division. So definitely a concern for the Yankees moving forward on that one. Then going forth to the Mets. The Mets have been doing absolutely a great job. They have won 7 straight games now. 1, 2, 3. Or is it 6 straight? Maybe it's 6 straight. Let's see. No, 1. They play Boston tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to count it, and it keeps moving on me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 games. They go for their 7th straight. I think they won 6 straight. But anyways, they have the best record they've had all year, as they are 11 games over 500 at 75-64. Just a half a game behind the Braves, both in the NL East as well as the wild card standings, and only 7.5 out of first place Philadelphia. So again, the Mets are Mets are playing great baseball. They knocked off the Red Sox for the second time in 2 days, 7-2 after beating them 4-1 on Monday. And just everybody's been doing well. Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso continue to hit home runs. The Mets have looked really, really good recently in what they have done there, as far as that's concerned. And then if you look over towards the wild card standings in the Major League Baseball, refresh that, make sure it's right up to date. Again, the Mets are within a half a game of the Braves. The Braves are at 75-63. The Mets are at 75-64, just behind them. Meanwhile, they're 2.5 games behind the second wild card spot. The Arizona Diamondbacks at 78-61 are 2.5 games ahead of the Mets, and 3 games ahead of the Mets are the San Diego Padres at 79-61 there. So that's where that currently looks as far as the wild card standings. Make sure I'm on there. Yep. All right. Up next, and as I told you, would do the Syracuse Mets, and I believe they're playing Lehigh Valley this year. New York. Okay, we got more on the New York Mets. Actually, it was Paul Blackburn actually had a rehab start highlighted, but Syracuse lost 4-1 to Scranton Wilkes-Barre yesterday. The Syracuse Mets dropped the season opener Scranton Wilkes-Barre on Tuesday night, surrendering the game's final 4 runs in a 4-1 loss. It was the first game out of a 6 scheduled to the second to last home series of the season. So you're running out of time to see the Syracuse Mets. I actually have not seen them live this year. I've watched them on TV a couple times. But despite the loss, Syracuse still has a good record at 38-25 at home during the 2024 season. Syracuse is 71-60 overall, 11 games over 500. But they did lose there, but they will be home all week against Scranton Wilkes-Barre. If you want to check them out, it's again your second to last home stand of the year to see the Mets. The Syracuse Mets are in the midst of their home stand of their second to last home stand of the season, playing a 6-game series against the New York Yankees affiliate Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Game 2 is tonight, set for 6:35 p.m. Right-hander Blade Tidwell is slated to start for the Mets against left-hander Tanner Tully of the Rail Riders, and they'll be in Syracuse all week. If you want to check that out, make sure to do that. That's another thing that you can check out as well. And then again, as moving into a little bit of Syracuse basketball news, well, kind of. Former Syracuse men's point guard Judah Mintz has signed a contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. And after having a great summer league with the Sixers and playing for their summer league team, the team did not disclose details on the contract, however, though. But multiple reports who cover the Sixers report that the deal is an Exhibit 10 contract. An Exhibit 10 contract pays the player the NBA minimum but can be converted into a two-way contract by the team. A two-way deal allows a team to split a player's team between the NBA and G League franchises. Exhibit 10 contracts typically do not include bonuses and are usually not guaranteed. It's the same type of deal that Buddy Boeheim signed with the Oklahoma City Thunder earlier this summer. Mintz entered the NBA draft after his second season with the Orange. As most of us know, he played in the Summer League, averaging 9.5 points a game for the Sixers and 1.2 rebounds. Mintz averaged 18 points last year for Syracuse, and we'll see where this goes for Mintz, but this is an opportunity. Can getting this Exhibit 10 contract lead him into getting a two-way deal? We'll have to see. Time only tells. Good luck to Judah Mintz on that one to see if he can do that and be a part of that. All right, well, let's go through, look at some college football scores up next right here on 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. All right, college football was definitely full in the week 1 of the season. We had lots of matchups, some good stuff, some interesting matchup. I think the matchup that stood out to me was Miami really taking Florida to the woodshed. And it was really like the one good thing for the ACC. The ACC really struggled over the weekend, but Miami went down to Gainesville to the Swamp and took out Florida 41-17 in a very impressive game there for Miami, as Ward threw 3 touchdown passes for 385 yards. It was a great performance. And maybe, the shocker of the weekend was, of course, Monday night, as I said. Boston College goes into Florida State and wins 28-13. We had a good Sunday night football matchup as USC, in a small upset, knocked off LSU 27-20, and both the thing that stood out is both those teams struggled with defense last year, and they both seem to have better defenses. It was a defensive struggle for a long time, but USC did come out on top. As far as another team from the ACC, Louisville cruised to a win over Austin Peay 62-0. Clemson got taken to the woodshed by the number 1 team in the country, Georgia, who seems not to lose a step even with a new quarterback coming in. And as Clemson fell to Georgia 34-3, and kind of an embarrassment there, and a surprise there. But sticking with the ACC, Pittsburgh was able to put up 55 points against another MAC team in the Orange with Kent State 55-24. So that was impressive as far as scoring wise with that. Penn State took care of business at West Virginia, winning 34-12. And we have Maryland take out UConn 50-7. And one of the better games of the weekend, in overtime, Vanderbilt upset, I would say it's an upset, Virginia Tech 34-27 in Nashville. They were at home. It was a SEC team on the road, so I don't think you should get down too much on Virginia Tech, but they did lose to Vanderbilt 34-27 on that note. Other scores, we had Ohio State roll at home against another Ohio school in Akron, 52-6. Texas rolled over Colorado State, 52-0. We had anything else worth mentioning? We had Nebraska take out UTEP 40-7. Oh, there's a lot of games to tell you all of them. And yeah, so those are some of the major scores. I feel like I'm missing something. Alabama won against Western Kentucky 63-0. Michigan, they beat Fresno State on Saturday night 30-10. Now Michigan definitely does not look like the national championship team they were last year, but they did do a few good things. I think Michigan can make the playoffs. I don't think they're really, to me, serious contenders for the national championship. Oregon surprisingly only beat Idaho 24-14, and Notre Dame knocked off Texas A&M 23-13. Now the important thing for Notre Dame is they have a pretty easy schedule, so there's a really good path for Notre Dame to make the college football playoffs if that were to be the case. So that's a team to watch out for there and see what they do there. We had a pretty interesting matchup between UCLA and Hawaii as UCLA held off Hawaii 16-13 in that one. As I said, Georgia Tech, who Syracuse plays next, did win 35-12 over Georgia State. And that we had Oklahoma beat Temple on Friday night 51-3, and a first glance for the Sooners looked good. And those were the major things. Duke won 26-3 over Elon of the ACC. Stanford put up a good fight, but ended up losing to TCU at home 34-27, but they looked better than maybe some of the experts thought they would look, and so I think that was a positive for the ACC. And ACC member Wake Forest won over NC A&T 45-13. And NC State, a tough game Thursday night, actually. This game was closer than it looked, 38-21. They were actually down in the third quarter to Western Carolina, and NC State came back to beat Western Carolina 38-21. So there's some NCAA football scores for you. And basically, I believe that's what I got for you with some of the highlights and things over the weekend for you. Last and certainly not least, I'll just mention Dino Babers as the new offensive coordinator of Arizona. His offense put up 61 points as Arizona started out with connecting a 69 touchdown pass with Wildcard's opening drive, and they kept gouging New Mexico's defense for big chunks, and they ended up winning the game. And again, they won, 61-39 over New Mexico on Saturday night. So congratulations to Dino Babers on that. All right, well, up next, we're going to talk about some college football players to watch in 2025. 15 Christ-following college football players to watch in 2024. That's going to be our Christian athlete profile. It's going to be we're going to look at some Christian college football players and their stand on faith, and what they might do in the college football season. And so let's do that up next right here on 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. Let's look at our Christian athlete profile. All right. All right, and today our Christian athletes profile, we look at 15 players that could be keys to making runs for their college football team on today's Christian athletes profile. All right, so the 2024 college football season is underway, making it the first year for the new 12-team playoff format that we went over last week here on the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. There are 134 teams in the football subdivision that will be fighting for spots, but only 12 will get in. Many of the 100 players of these teams are not only incredible athletes, they're also followers of Christ. There's no one way to list all of them, but here are 15 in no particular order to watch this season. First is Texas quarterback Quinn Evers. The number 4 Texas Longhorns are entering their first season as members of the SEC, and they have experienced quarterback in junior Quinn Edwards to lead them through the transition. Edwards was a preseason team All-ACC selection and projected to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy Award. He's also a potential top 10 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. He threw for 3,479 yards last year and 22 touchdowns as a sophomore, helping Texas to a 12-2 record and a win over Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game before losing to Washington in the Sugar Bowl. Texas will look to compete for the SEC title and reach the expanded playoff. He says, God is so good. After last year's win over Alabama, I can't say enough how much God has put me through. He's made me strong. Another player to look out for is Ohio State wide receiver let's see if I can say this right. Emeka Egbuka. A key piece to the number 2 Ohio State success this season will be wide receiver Egbuka, who returns as the team's top pass-catching target. He was named AP preseason first-team All-American and potential first-round pick in 2025 NFL Draft. He said in an event that, since then, it's really a radical change for me. I started walking more obediently with God, and I started seeking Him day after day. Another player to watch out for in the 2024 season is North Carolina defensive end Kamen Rutger on the watch list for the Bednarik Award, Lombardi Award, and the Impact Trophy. He enters his final collegiate season one of the leaders of the Tar Heels defense after racking up 56 total tackles and 8.5 sacks last season. He was baptized in April and declared on his Instagram bio that he is filling the purpose that Jesus has for me. Rucker has used social media to post short videos in which he teaches about the portion of the Bible, even though he knows that you're thankful for today, even though he knows that you're thankful for the little things that happen in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly. He still wants to give thanks no matter what it is. So that is Kamen Rucker, a North Carolina defensive end. Another guy to watch out for is Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. Alabama will have a new head coach for the first time since 2007 after Nick Saban's retirement, but the Clemson Tide will return its starting quarterback Jalen Milroe, who hopes to lead the transition program back to a national championship. And Monroe told the media last season, I honestly say that I surrender my throne to him. I know that I can lean on him no matter what the circumstances. I honestly say I put my trust in him no matter what. And Monroe threw for 2,834 yards last year and 23 touchdowns in 2023. So that is Jalen Monroe. Another guy to watch out for, Christian football player, is Donovan Edwards, a Michigan running back. As Michigan hopes to repeat as Big Ten and national champions this season, running back Donovan Edwards figures to be a big piece of that. The senior has been a big cog in the Michigan offense since he was a freshman. He's captained his junior season with 2 touchdowns in the national championship game last year. It's not difficult for me to praise God and give him glory, he said in December of 2023, because he's always been there for me when everything was high. So I'd be not doing a disgrace to God if I was praising him with everything was low. So he's another guy that is a guy to look out for, Donovan Edwards, the running back of Michigan. Moving over to the LSU quarterback, obviously LSU had a disappointing loss to USC, but hoping to bounce back this weekend. Former 4-star prospect Garrett Nussmeier transferred to be a starter elsewhere, but instead stayed at Baton Rouge to back the 2023 Heisman Trophy winner Jalen Daniels. When I was making my decision out of high school where to go to school, I felt like I had a lot of involved. Now, we've actually profiled Garrett, so we won't spend too much time on him. We profiled him sometime this summer, so we'll move on from that. Next up is Tim Kenyon, an Alabama defensive tackle. Tim Kenyon redshirted his first year in Tuscaloosa and saw nothing but mop-up duty in his second season. With a problem being clear, he weighed too much at the time that he knew he had to change and to get more playing time. He vowed to do it with God. He began reading God's word, praying more consistently, listening to the gospel music before workouts, and he started a team Bible study. In addition to starting all 14 of Bama's games in 2023, I just try to work as hard as possible to honor God, Kenyon said last year, and to show him that I'm thankful when I am with my play. Up next, we have Trevinian Henderson, Ohio State running back Trevinian Henderson. Another player who figures to lead the Buckeyes to the national championship contending is running back Trevinian Henderson. The senior led the team in rushing as a freshman with 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns, but injuries cut his 2022 season short. He returned in 2000, but again led the Buckeyes in rushing, again up to 926 yards and 11 touchdowns. In part of his on-campus faith event at Ohio State, he said, Jesus, he's my everything, man. Henderson said recently on Sports Specific Podcast, after my foot injury in my sophomore year, I made a decision to give my life to the Lord. Ever since then, I gave my life to him. He's changed my life. Great to see that. Clemson quarterback had Klubnik since last being a freshman season. Clemson been Klubnik's team. He's took over in the 2020 ACC championship game, led the Tigers to a 39-10 win, then got his first start against Tennessee in the Orange Bowl, throwing for 320 yards in a 31-14 loss. As a sophomore, Klubnik threw for 2,844 yards and 19 touchdowns while rushing for 182 yards and 4 touchdowns. He said in the Sports Spectrum podcast in 2023, I've been thankful to have just experienced in the game of football throughout my life so far, but not one of these has come close to the amazing things that God has done in my life. Geez, how many more of these guys we got? We got Nathan Carter, a Michigan State running back. Nathan Carter proved to be one of the top running backs in the Big Ten in 2023, rushing for 798 yards and 4 touchdowns after spending his first 2 seasons at Connecticut. Carter said last year, we've all searched for a purpose. We've all searched for something to fulfill, something to sustain us. So it's a gift that I believe that God has given me, and to be able to use my words to be able to be profound and give him glory and to spread his name. All right, a couple more. Will Rogers, Washington quarterback. After 4 years at Mississippi State, Will Rogers took over as the starting quarterback for Washington under new head coach Jedd Fisch. Rogers has already made 40 collegiate starts with his best season coming as a sophomore in 2021. His junior campaign saw him throw for 3,974 yards and 35 touchdowns, and an injury limited him to just 8 games last year. About his faith, Rogers said on the Sports Spectrum podcast in 2023, God's changed my life in a tremendous way, not just with football and the things I do on the football field, but just in life in general. I think I have plenty of good grasp and pretty good understanding of that. And, that's what I'm doing on the football. I'm doing on the field is ultimately for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Taylon Green. That'll be the last one we do. Just seems like there's a million of these. Oh, we're just about done anyway. Taylon Green, following 3 seasons at Boise State, takes over as a Arkansas Razorback quarterback. As a sophomore, he threw for 2,042 yards and 14 touchdowns, and as a junior, threw for 1,752 and 11 touchdowns. He's also does damage with his legs, compelling for 580 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. 2022, those 400 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns in 2023. He says that God is everything to him, about his faith in God. He said, I started out the day with him and just blessed to have a family that taught me to always keep him first. So those are some of the great college football players to look out that have an awesome relationship with Jesus, that are Christ-following college football players to watch in the 2024 season. Hopefully you got blessed and encouraged out of that. All right, well, because there's a lot of talking, we're going to take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we're going to come back to our scripture of the week related to sports right here on 4th and 10. So we'll be right back right after this. Thanks again for listening.
Do you like what you're hearing? Great news. You can hear more. Go to livestream.com/COR Radio for this and more of COR Radio's broadcasts. Into sports? Check out the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show. How about the Christian Rock and Comedy Show with Double Edge? Or how about some old school Christian rock? Check out Retro Rock Live. Or maybe a faith talk with some interactive messages from Sunday morning messages at the Rock. Oh wait, you guessed it. The church and its services right here at www.livestream.com/COR Radio. That's www.livestream.com/COR Radio. Thanks again for listening, because there's more coming your way from COR Radio, Church on the Rock Radio. You're listening to the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock, 164 Madison Street, right here in Oneida, New York. If you'd like more information about its church and its ministries, give us a call at 315-280-4044. That's 315-280-4044. Or check us out on the internet at www.yourcotr.com. That's www.your.cotr.com. Thanks again for listening to 4th and 10.
All right, back here live on 4th and 10, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock, and we're going to get into our Scripture of the Week related to sports, and this is a clip you can check out each and every week on our Church on the Rock YouTube page. Feel free to do that. We can do that as well. And we'll be every single Wednesday. We are live here on 4th and 10 from 10:30 a.m. to noon, so you can check that out. And thanks again for listening to 4th and 10. If you want to check out 4th and 10 at its normal time on Wednesday, you can go to Facebook, where I'm on my personal Facebook page, Nigel Delbert, or on our COR Radio or Church on the Rock Facebook page, or on livestream.com/COR Radio. All right, well, let's get into our scripture of the week related to sports. We're going to be talking about having a fresh start. And how many guys know that in the football season, no matter how good or bad your football team was the year before, it's always a fresh start when it's the beginning of the season, whether you're an NFL team, a college football team, whatever the case may be. So we're going to talk about a fresh start or new beginning here. And our scripture of the week is Isaiah 43, verse 19. It says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." So God basically said in Isaiah, to the prophet Isaiah, and had the prophet Isaiah prophesy this, that God is doing a new thing, that he's going to make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. God sometimes will do things and he'll change things, and sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't like it, but that's something that God is doing. And so are you in some kind, are you in some kind of process where you're making changes in your life? I know there's been a lot of changes currently going on as far as my family is concerned. Last weekend, my niece Abigail, she went back to her second year of college, and she's going to be doing that in her second year of college. And she went back Saturday and started classes this week. My nephew, Elijah, he went on to be a sophomore in high school and had his first day of school yesterday, so that's a new start for him. And my grandma is actually going to be moving into a nursing home on Friday, and can be praying for my mom, who's going to have to help move her into a nursing home Friday. But are there lots of big changes happening in your life? Does starting over mean stepping out in faith as you face new beginnings? For some, starting over or starting something new is embracing on a new career. For others, starting involves moving on to another area of the country or starting a new sports season. When facing new beginnings, it always comes with some uncertainty, doesn't it? How will you handle the change? Are you making the right decision? Maybe you have no say in the matter. Change is inevitable, and starting over means facing your fears of the unknown. Starting over can be new and exciting. It can be scary. Every new parent must make adjustments in their lifestyle as they participate in the birth of a baby. Sadly, for some, a new beginning can be the result of losing a loved one or marriage, divorce. If that is you, your faith will most likely be wavering at the thought of starting over and living your life without somebody that was special in your life. Starting over may happen on a daily, weekly, or even a monthly basis, with minor to major adjustments in our lives. When a crisis or significant life event occurs, starting over could require a major life overhaul. Whatever the reason, when facing an unknown future, starting over or a new beginning challenges to look at our circumstances through the eyes of faith instead of fear. So how do you face your fears when starting over? Don't overthink it in doing so. The question, we want to ask ourselves is, as you dart out of the gate with confidence, as soon as you hit the bump in the road and question yourself, ask yourself, did I hear from the Lord when I made this decision? If you heard from the Lord, whether it's, picking a college, whether it's, trying to pick the right nursing home for my grandma. What were you thinking? Was God in this decision? If he was, don't be worried about it. God is under control. It says in Deuteronomy 31, verse 8, "It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Do not be feared or dismayed." So God is with you in that decision. Wherever you are, whatever that new thing is, whatever that fresh start is, the beginning, God is there. He is there with you. You are not alone. So here are quickly 5 ways to have faith when starting over or getting involved in new beginnings of some kind of sort, where you are in some kind of an agreement there, in some kind of new beginning. Number 1, seek God's presence. Always seek God. Don't leave God out of the picture when you're facing new things. When we feel forced to make big decisions based on unforeseen circumstances, if we panic, we usually make our decisions based on fear and not in faith. But when faced with uncertainty, we will need faith to start over. Our faith grows as we seek the Lord's presence through prayer and by spending time in His Word. Isaiah 55:6 says, "Seek the Lord, the Lord while He may be found. Call upon Him while He is near." So seek God's presence. Number 2, seek God's wisdom. It's not the time to ask God for wisdom once you're already in the middle of a big changes. Okay, it's all right, the right time to ask God to lead and guide us, but best time to seek wisdom from God is before we make these decisions. Whether a large decision, a small decision, any kind of decision. As we look to God before we leap, our faith will grow and our fear will diminish. It says in James 1 verse 5, "If any of you lacks wisdom, then ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him." So seek God's wisdom, very important. Number 3, seek godly counsel. It is important that we seek godly counsel from others when facing decisions. Maybe somebody has gone through a similar situation that we have. We can go to somebody that is strong in the faith to help us to get through these changes and these new beginnings, especially those involved in traumatic life changes and new beginnings. Talk to people who have lived it, who love the Lord and will pray for you. Seek wisdom for those who have walked in your shoes before. It says in Proverbs 11:14, "Where there is no guidance, a people fall, but abundance of counselors, there is safety." I love that. Where there's an abundance of counselors, there's safety involved in that. Number 4, seek to trust God. Fear keeps us from walking in faith. Before we can get rid of fear, we must first determine to trust God. No matter how difficult our circumstances or how uncertain our future might look, the idea of trusting God may seem like a cliche, but it's definitely not. For that is not the case at all. When we trust God, we step out of our own comfort zone, obey Him, even when it makes little to no sense. Like, the whole situation, like walking on water, that made no sense. Whatever it says, God, trusting God, it means that we ask for wisdom and faith and obey Him. As it says in Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and He will direct your path." And last, and certainly not least, number 5, seek peace. For God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. It says in 1 Corinthians 14:33. We have become a bundle of nerves at times while waiting for answers from God, especially when starting over. For most of us, our comfort zone is what we know. Truly, I don't handle change well. That's why I've lived in the same house and to the same job for over 20 years. I've always been a follower of Jesus most of my life. Many years ago, a more mature believer shared some wise advice with me. She told me to always follow peace. Seek the Lord and be patient while I wait for an answer. Once He gives me the decision, faithfully obey Him, and that's what we are. So again, those are 5 steps. What do we call those? 5 ways to have faith when starting over. Number 1, seek God's presence. Number 2, seek God's wisdom. Number 3, seek godly counsel. Number 4, seek to trust God. Number 5, seek peace. So that is where we are. So I encourage you, wherever you might be with this, that we can go on to be able to be strong in whatever changes that life brings. And let's sing a simple prayer before we move on today. Say, "Dear Lord, sometimes life doesn't go according to plans. Sometimes new things happen. At least not in our plans. We must start over. Other times we face new beginnings with anticipation and joy. Please teach us not to fear change, but embrace it with faith that come our way. But to step out boldly in faith as we trust in you and to guide us. We are thankfully for your presence for us as children. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen." So hopefully you got something out of it. Again, that was our scripture of the week Isaiah 43:19, behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And hopefully you are blessed and encouraged through that. All right, up next in our last 20 minutes or so of the show is our NFL preview as we get ready for the Bills, Jets, and Giants season right here on 4th and 10. All right, so we preview the Bills, Jets, and Giants season this year on the last few minutes of 4th and 10. And let's start with those Buffalo Bills.
The Bills make me wanna shout, kick your heels up and shout, throw your hands up and shout, throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now.
All right, so the Buffalo Bills have lots of questions this year, more than answers. Like previous years, they've been picked as one of the huge Super Bowl contenders, but some questions after, the losing some key players during the off season, and a very different looking Bills team. Obviously, some of the key losses include Stephon Diggs to Houston in a trade, Gabe Davis leaving in free agency, Mitch Morris, the center, he left, Shaq Lawson, he is gone, Leonard Floyd, gone, Travarius White, they let go, Dane Jackson, Mecca Hyde, and Jordan Poyer, all gone from a 2023 Bills team. The Bills were supposed to possess one of the top offenses in the NFL last year, so it was a huge surprise that the team was limited to 25 or fewer points in 7 of their first 10 games. They were held to fewer than 20 points on 3 occasions, given the scoring unit was loaded with greater talent like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Something had to change, so that's when they fired Ken Dorsey, and they replaced him with Joe Brady. So this will be Joe Brady's first year as the full-time offensive coordinator. The upgrade was insignificant as the offense scored 24 more points in every game except one following Brady's promotion. So hopefully we see a more consistent offense, and but the Bills will need at least one young receiver to step up this season. As again, the biggest question that I have for the Bills is Josh Allen have enough weapons around him to be effective for this to be a really good scoring football team for them. It's going to be a challenge. Somebody's got to step up. The question marks on offensive line are equally impressive. Along with longtime center Mitch Morris being gone, Connor McGovern will take over the spot. The Bills at least don't have any question marks at tackle, as Deion Dawkins is still a Pro Bowl caliber blocker on the blind side, with Spencer Brown have proven himself to be a rock-solid back end for Dawkins. So the Bills looked like the best team in the NFL prior to the London game last night, but unfortunately for them, they suffered massive injuries and then lost to some poor opponents that managed to rebound and reach the second round of the playoffs, but injuries really hurt them last season. And hopefully, the key here is staying healthy despite, letting all these guys go in the new-look Bills. Some of the new additions include, obviously, they drafted Keon Coleman, the great wide receiver from Florida State. They have safety Cole Bishop, defensive tackle Dwayne Carter, running back Ray Davis, Bills rookie forecast, and some different things. So the Bills are supposed to possess one of the top offenses in the NFL last year, but again, they didn't. So can they rebound and be a really good offense this year? And again, my biggest question is does Josh have the weapons? He's got James Cook. He's got Shakir. You got, again, as I said, the tight ends and Dawson Knox and Kincaid. And he's going to need all those players to step up. The Bills lost their top receiver, so they need to find a new number one target for Josh Allen in order to compete with the other teams in the AFC, whereas both the Jets and Miami, I think, are going to be big threats to the Bills. The front office can try to make those things happen, and we'll see how things go as far as this is concerned. But as long as Josh Allen is healthy, and and he has some weapons, the Bills will be in the mix for a playoff spot, I believe. I believe they could be a surprise team. Their offense could end up being better than last year. I just have a good vibe about the offense here. And will the defense hold up? There's questions even on the defensive end for the Bills. And obviously it's going to help if they don't suffer a ton of injuries and misfortune, as it seemed to happen last year and it seems to happen in the past. If they have better luck remaining healthy, they have a good chance of finally reaching the Super Bowl. I don't want to look too far ahead, but to me, whenever you got Josh Allen and enough weapons, if you got enough weapons and the defense can over exceed, I still can think this team could be a Super Bowl contender. But we'll have to see there and how all that shapes up for the Buffalo Bills in that. So what will the receiving look like? The Bills will have almost an entirely new group of receivers. So you got, of course, Shakir, as I said, and the guys. Other receivers they got is Curtis Samuel came over from Washington. Mac Hollins could be a big part. He did good with the limited. He really had really good numbers for not really having a great quarterback for the Falcons. Came over from Atlanta. Keon Coleman, how will he do as a rookie? And Marquez Valdes-Scantling came over from the Chiefs. All are new to the team. How will these guys gel with Josh Allen? This is the big question that I have. How does Josh Allen and this offense click? And how I think that he's going to go to multiple guys. Are there a lot of individual questions? Is MVS going to be able to become a visible deep threat? Can Shakir build off a big year 2 and turn it into a big year 3? Will Coleman look like a rookie or look like a great player out there? There are a lot of questions within that group. And how will Joe Brady affect the offense? I mean, we saw an improvement in just the half a year that Joe Brady had last year. I think even a full year under his belt, I think that's really going to help Joe Brady to help develop this offense. He did a big, deep dive into how Joe Brady saved the Bills last season, and a lot of it was focused on two things: becoming more efficient in the passing game rather than living and dying on deep balls and leaning on the run game. More James Cook touches, more Josh Allen carries, and taking the layups underneath while still taking deep shots, just not making the base of the offense. Is this what will make the Bills' offense a top 10 offense in 2024? And last and certainly not least, how will the defense look? Will they hold up? We already know Matt Lano being injured takes away the nucleus defense. However, they ain't going to fall off a cliff. You have Terrell Bernard, had a fantastic season last year and looks to step up as well. Sean McDermott and Bobby Bayrich will get the best out of Raquel Davis and Christian Bernard, a good cornerback tandem. They brought in Mike Edwards to be a veteran safety alongside Taylor Rapp and rookie Cole Bishop. Ed Oliver is a good defensive tackle. The biggest question could be A.G. Espinosa or Greg Russo turning into upper tier edge rushers. Ken Von Miller looked like his former self at some point this year. These are questions on the defensive end. If the Bills can have a strong bump from the upper edges, they will make a real shot. So that is a look at the Buffalo Bills. All right, up next, how about the Jets? The Jets, I believe, are a team that could compete for, of course, the AFC East, if I can say that. But my big question mark with the Jets: will Aaron Rodgers, being 40-year-old, stay healthy? He gets hurt 4 plays in. The Jets have a tremendous defense. They have. Another problem with the Jets is their best defensive player, his name escapes me right now, is still holding out. He still hasn't signed. Now, the Jets have a really good defense with offense without him, but they are still a team They have probably one of the top 3 defenses in the entire NFL, and that's going to be a strength for the Jets. They have a great running back, of course, and with a top fantasy running back in Bryce Hall. They have they brought over and have some good threats as far as they brought Mike Williams over from the Chargers, and of course they got Garrett. What's his name? Veteran edition. This is why I have things in front of me, because I forget names. Veteran editions. And it's got to be sooner or later with there's only going to be so much years that Aaron Rodgers has left, and he's got to start getting the job done there for the Jets. There. So they added Mike Williams. They said Tyrod Taylor as a backup in case something happens to Aaron Rodgers. And so we'll see how those things go. So the New York Jets had Super Bowl aspirations into last year, but those quickly vanished when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles just 4 plays into the season. Rodgers likely to return this year with potentially better injury luck, and so that's the key thing, is him staying healthy. The Jets didn't lose too much in the offseason. They lost JT Azamon, the tight end, and some tackles and guys on the offensive defensive line. Rodgers will be back. He'll turn 31 during this season. He hasn't really played in 2 years, so that remains a big question mark. It'll also be determined if he has a good enough supporting cast. The Jets have an opportunity to select Brock Bowers at number 11 overall in the 2024 draft, but passed on him in favor of an offensive tackle. It's fair to wonder if the Jets have a defendable threats outside of the dramatic Garrett Wilson. That's who the guy was trying to think of. The Jets signed Mike Williams, but he's healthy. He can be injury-prone at times, coming off a torn ACL, so there isn't much expected from him this season. The Jets used a third-round pick on Malachi Corley, who has been drawing comparisons to Dabo Samuel. However, Corley is an inexperienced and raw player, so it's not like he'll be able to setting the league ablaze immediately. The Jets' top receiving weapon outside of Wilson resides in the backfield. That would be Bryce Hall, who showed off Marshall Faulk-type receiving ability down the stretch this past season. Hall is an exceptional back who can go the distance anytime he touches the ball, so it's important for him to remain healthy. Speaking of injuries, the Jets suffered many of them on the offensive line. There could be more to come in the wake of Tyson Smith's signing. Smith, formerly of Dallas, is one of the most athletic left tackles in the NFL, but he just can't stay on the football field. That's why the Jets used the number 11th pick on a offensive lineman. Another frequently injured blocker is Aja Verda Tucker. It's a shame for Verda Tucker. He's very talented and versatile enough to play any position up front. Obviously, again, the offense is the question. Can they, does just like with Josh Allen, does Aaron Rodgers with Bryce Hall and Williams and Wilson have enough weapons to be an effective offense? The Jets ended up being 7-10 because of a good defense last year. They were still able to win 7 games. Despite having Aaron Rodgers for only 4 snaps. Zach Wilson didn't account for those victories. It was the defense that led the way. And the defense is going to be just as strong, if not better, this year. And New York has was much better against the pass than the run. One of the primary reasons for this was the play of elite cornerback Sauce Gardner. Despite just being in his second year, Gardner established himself as arguably the best cornerback in the NFL. The Jets were also able to get great play out of other starters on the outside, including DJ Reed. In addition to terrific cornerback, the Jets were phenomenal at stopping aerial attacks because of the pass rush and linebacker play. They were 4th in pressure rate. Quentin Williams was able to dominate the trenches with a pair of edge rushers, creating for quarterbacks on the outside. Williams will start an interior line next to newly signed Javon Kinlaw or Lexi Futu. Kinlaw is a former first-round pick who is yet to do it in the NFL. And of course, the Jets have great linebacker play. C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams will their roles as the two primary defenders at that position. They also have a really good kicker with Greg Zuerlein, who was one of the best kickers in the NFL last year, who had 35 of 38 attempts, including 5 of 6 from 50 yards plus. The Jets will have a third-place schedule as they have an opportunity to get off to a hot start beginning with Week 2 as they battle the Titans, Patriots, Broncos, and Vikings. So the Jets have a much easier schedule than the Bills do. The Bills have that number 1 team schedule that will make it harder for the Bills. Going here for the Jets rookie forecast, a page with predictions like with rookies will burst and which rookie will become a solid transfer. So looking at the Jets and analyzing, the Jets were 7-10 last year, despite Aaron Rodgers being on there for 4 straight. The sky is the limit if Rodgers is the same player that he was a few years back, even after not playing for a couple years, and some of the key pieces around him managed to stay healthy. However, there are a ton of risks with all injury-prone players that New York has accumulated. Thus, the Jets likely have a wide range of outcomes of all the teams in the NFL. They could be one of the best teams in the whole NFL. They could really struggle and be injury-prone. So they could compete with the Bills and be right there in the AFC East division, or they could struggle. So the Jets are one of the biggest question marks, in my opinion, going into the 2024 NFL season. And last and certainly not least, we may go a couple minutes over, the New York Football Giants. The Giants, there's a lot of questions around. A lot of people don't think they should have stuck with Daniel Jones, but they stuck with Daniel Jones. My biggest question for the Giants is the offensive line finally fixed to protect Daniel Jones. We'll get into that in a minute here, but the Giants' disappointment after the playoff appearance in 2022, beginning of the starting of the season when they were blown out by the Cowboys. Daniel Jones seemed to regress and not a pregress, so it remains to be seen if he'll be able to stay as a starter in 2025. Some veteran additions include Drew Luck as a backup quarterback. Devin Singletary comes over, formerly a Bill and Texan, comes over as a running back for the Giants. In replace, they lost Saquon Barkley, and all of the Singletary's there to try to take Barkley's spot. Isaiah McKenzie, a player that came over from the Bills at wide receiver. They also, of course, added the rookie, the Malik Neighbors, who's supposed to be a guy that is supposed to be, that could be the number 1 pick, the number 1 target for the Giants, and see if he can get a chemistry with Daniel Jones. Again, they lost Tyrod Taylor, Barkley. They lost Darren Waller, safety Xavier McKinney. So football coaches typically don't like to make excuses, but Daniel Jones never really had a fair chance because, and again, the line didn't help him. Jones was always paired with a poor coaching staff or a bad offensive line. For the first time in Jones' career, he'll have a visible number 1 receiver at his disposal. He's been thrown to the likes of guys like Darius Slayton and Galladay and Isaiah Hoskins. But, Malik Neighbors is supposed to be the guy they drafted to be that number 1 guy. Some teams rank Neighbors ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., so it'll be interesting to see how Jones fares with Neighbors as a downfield threat this season. Well, Dale Robinson will reprise his role as the team's slot receiver, while Jalen Hyatt and Slayton will battle for the starting position across the Neighbors. Hyatt has terrific speed, but didn't do anything as a rookie. One of those players who will have to pick up the slack is Darren Waller announcing his retirement. Unfortunately for Jones, there's lots of reasons for not to be optimistic. Despite Neighbors' availability, one factor is that Jones is coming off a torn ACL. He had a really bad preseason for whatever that's worth, so you may not be so mobile as he was in the past. A second factor is that Barkley is gone. Barkley signed with the Eagles, so Jones will be missing his dynamic safety valve out of the backfield. They're going to have to go with Singletary. The Giants replaced him with Singletary. While Singletary thrived in Houston last year, it's fair to skeptical of his chances in 2024 because of New York's miserable blocking. And speaking of miserable blocking, the third reason why Jones may once again fall to live up to expectations, the Giants couldn't keep pass rushers from flooding the backfield last season, and this is likely to once again be the case in 2024. Is the offensive line fixed for Jones to give Jones time? This is the key. I think it's the biggest question going in for the Giants in 2024. They'll have to sandwich second on Michael Smith, a second-round prospect with a horrible rookie campaign. As far as that, they also have a lot of questions in their secondary. Through the Giants made the playoffs, they rendered 1.4 points per game before they score. The defense has some holes, and the secondary is definitely something that is very young, very inexperienced. So the Giants have some things going for them, namely Malik Neighbors, Anthony Thomas, and their fantastic defense. They have a good defensive line. However, there's so many holes on the roster. Daniel Jones is coming off the torn ACL and won't have quality blocking, while the secondary will be could be torched routinely as a young secondary. New York may be the worst team in the NFC East. I don't know how else to put that as far as that's concerned. And so coming into the season, Joe Schlen finally made a point to emphasize both the Giants' offensive line that has been one of the worst units in NFL. Instead of spending money on Barkley, they did do a little bit in improving the offensive line, and hopefully that helps the Giants protect Jones a little bit better this season, but it's still not looking great. And but let's hope that the offensive line can hang in there. Some of the preseason end of the Giants have already cut 2 players at the guard and tackle positions that didn't do the job. And along with all-pro tackle Anthony Thomas back in the fold, they brought in John Runland, who finished 17th in the same melodic in 2023, and Greg Von Roten to round out what should be an improved unit under new head coach Carmel Briscoes. Well, but again, it's a new start. You never know. Maybe the Giants can get things figured out. Maybe it isn't as bad as the preseason outline looks as far as that concerned. All right, well, we are over our time. We're a little after 12 here, but I wanted to make sure to get through that preview. You have been listening to the 4th and 10 Christian Sports Show, an outreach ministry of Church on the Rock. I'm your host, Nigel Delbert. Thanks again for listening. Next week, we will recap the Georgia Tech Syracuse football game, get you ready for a Friday night showdown with Stanford. We will also talk about week 1 in the NFL, the good and bad things that happened for the Bills, Jets, and Giants. As we get you ready, I believe the Bills face the Cardinals 1 o'clock on Sunday. The Jets are facing the 49ers on Monday Night Football. Hang on, I got to get you the Giants schedule here, who they play in the first week. They play the Vikings at 1 o'clock at Giants Stadium against Minnesota, which will be a huge test for their first game. We'll see how the Giants look come Sunday. All right, well, that is all the time I have for this week's edition of 4th and 10. Thanks again for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your week. God bless you. See you again soon. See you next week for more football and baseball news and much more on 4th and 10. Have a great rest of your day. God bless you.